Welcome back to the SimTech podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of clinical simulation through the eyes of the technicians behind the scenes. In this episode, we're joined by Finn, a specialist technician for digital simulation, who brings a unique perspective on the evolving landscape of virtual, augmented, and screen-based simulation. From designing immersive digital scenarios to troubleshooting tech on the fly, Finn's role pushes the boundaries of what simulation can offer. We'll explore how digital simulation is being integrated into clinical education, what challenges can come with staying ahead of the tech curve, and how technicians like Finn are shaping the future of simulation-based training. Whether you're already in the sim world or just curious about the digital side of healthcare education, this episode is for you. So, let's jump in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SimTech podcast. Today we're going to be doing behind the scenes and getting to know some of its members of the community. And to help me do that, I brought on a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is. I'll start that again. Hi, my name is Finn. My name is Finn Drude. I'm the specialist technician for digital simulation at the University of Cumbria.
Ooh, a specialist technician.
I
What's the
know
difference between a regular non-specialist technician and a specialist technician?
that's a very good question. It was a very recent job title change. I think uh, they're trying to push more to specialist technicians to kind of just have that in the job title that we are all specialists in our own little areas. So across the technical team at the university, we have a specialist technician who will primarily look after the nursing cohort, someone that will look after the OT and physios. Up in the arts, we'll have a specialist technician for printmaking and fine art. We're trying to kind of go more into the specialist technician to signify a little bit more that we are specialists in a
Yeah,
variety
I
of
think
different fields.
America definitely take this kind of take on it, don't they? They're like their
Mm.
specialists and their operators, and they have their God, I'm going to say pronouns and stuff that are incorporated into their titles.
Yeah.
But job description wise, you're still SimTech. You're still doing exactly what other SimTechs would do, or is there a little bit more to it?
Yeah, pretty much. I think probably the biggest difference between what I do and what maybe a lot of other simtechs do is I very much just focus on the digital side of it. So
Hmm.
I'm not necessarily that involved with kind of mannequins and sort of the day-to-day running of those kind of events that take more in the actual wards. And I was very specifically brought on to predominantly look at the digital side. So look at how virtual reality, augmented reality feeds into health simulation, and then how our immersive rooms feed into health simulation.
Oh, now you're talking. I mean, this is right up my street. I can tell we're going to have a good time. Before we get too much into it, how did you find your path? Where have you been before? What was you doing before you came here?
So I originally started off in the creative arts and media industry. So I have a background in predominantly film production, and I worked as a freelance filmmaker and sort of video editor for a couple of years. I was originally a technician with the university in our arts campus, with the AV department, and then I think about 4 years ago, this job that I'm now in came up, and it felt like for me something that came at the right time, and it was right down my alley because it felt like it really felt like a challenge to me to kind of have that different approach to using my creative skills in a completely different context. So I kind of jumped in that opportunity, and 4 years later I'm still
We
here.
call
So
that we call that fate, by the way.
yes,
That's exactly what that
absolutely.
was. I mean, how have you found it coming from essentially a non-clinical background into a very heavily clinical background?
Oh, I mean, I always say I can now pronounce some of the three-syllable clinical terms a little bit better than I did 4 years ago. But I mean, apart from that, is there's still I probably have a little bit of a better idea now in terms of all the clinical things now. Understand a little bit more of the clinical jargon. But yeah, it was definitely it was a big change. I mean, the biggest thing that I found is acronyms. I feel like the clinical
Yeah.
world and the NHS is all just centered around acronyms. So I feel like I spent 6 months just trying to learn what all the different letters
Yeah.
meant in different combinations and different contexts. Apparently,
hmm Do I detect a slight accent in there, Finn? Where you?
yes. There's a German accent hiding in there somewhere.
So, I mean, not only do you have the medical jargon, but now you've also got the English language on top of that. Is that what we're talking?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've lived in England for 15 years now, and so I'm up in the north. I'm up in Cumbria, and I'm married to a Cumbrian. So I feel like I've managed to hide it fairly well in it, but there's still a little bit of a twang of the German accent coming through now and then. Yeah,
Yeah, I've got to say you're sounding. I don't want to take this too. You are a you've got a northern twang to you, as well, especially when you
yeah,
say Cumbria.
yeah,
You know, so you can tell you've been here probably way too long. You know,
yeah.
so what's a typical day look like for you then? What's day to day?
Day to day, for me would probably be developing projects, talking to our academics about sort of new projects and new ideas of what they're wanting to do in digital sim, but also then supporting any sessions with students that we have that kind of use the digital resources, whether it's VR, whether it's immersive room. It's quite varied. It keeps me on my toes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a very personal question, and you don't have to answer. You can just give me like a hand signal. But what band do you come in as a digital simulation technologist? Whereabouts do you sit?
I mean, I don't think we work on bands necessarily in the university, but it's kind of the equivalent of a senior technician. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's towards that kind of higher level of on the technician scale.
Yeah. And have you thought about your future? Where are you wanting to go? Where's your path? Have you seen my way through?
It's a hard thing, isn't it? Because I mean, I'm not entirely sure to be honest
No,
at the
you're just
moment.
taking
There's
one day at a time, kind
Yeah, I
of.
mean, I enjoy the work that I do, and I enjoy the sort of the creative freedom that I've got, and I think that's what I was always looking for in any job, to be able to use my creativity in a meaningful way as well. I mean, I have always been interested in the academic side. I have always been interested in the teaching side, and I've managed to I've got a master's degree and a PGC now. So I would be interested in kind of seeing if there's a pathway for me to eventually going over to the dark side,
To the dark side.
leaving the text behind and going on the other side.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we all think about it, don't we? I
Yeah.
mean, it's sensible to think about, what's next. Am I going down manager? Do I want to lead where you work, or is this just the next stepping stone? Are you wanting to do something, completely different
Mm,
and radical? Because again, I love the creative aspect of this role, being
mm.
able to create and think of ideas and coming up with these projects and then you've got to go to your clinicians and sell them the idea and see if you can get someone to take the bait. Is that kind of how it is for you?
Yeah, I think it's both ways. I think for us, project wise, that there's definitely some ideas that kind of we have and we try to push, and we kind of say, well, why don't we? It would be really interesting to do X, Y, and Z. But
Mm.
if we because we work a lot on that kind of client based approach, because we just cater for the entire Institute of Health, basically. So we do get a lot of our academics actually coming to us and saying, I really want to develop something around this kind of topic. And we have the luxury of then sitting down with them and kind of breaking that down and saying, right, okay, what do you actually want to do? What are your learning outcomes? What do you want the students to get away from that? And we are then able to actually collaboratively work with our academics and say, right, so this is what the end product, what you want the end product to be. This is the boxes that you needed to tick. This is how we think we can wrap that in a container or in a simulation, in an activity that is appropriate for the medium that we're looking at, that is also hopefully fun and engaging for the students, and that also
Yeah, I mean,
ticks the boxes.
you know, you you're saying all the right stuff to me. It sounds like a brilliant job because that's the best part of my role, and problem solving. They come to me most of the time. They put what I say, the cart before the horse, and they go, "Look, I want to use
Yeah.
virtual reality. How
Yes.
can I use it?" And I'm like, "That's not how it's used. Look,
Absolutely.
you're doing it a little bit backwards there."
Yeah.
So
It's that
yeah,
reverse engineering, isn't it? That's
yeah.
kind
I
of the
mean,
important thing.
it's just a tool.
Yeah.
Where do you get all your ideas from? Then, where's your inspiration?
I mean, oh, that's a difficult one.
I
That's
mean,
that's like that's like saying, where does creativity come from, isn't it?
yeah, but
Um,
for me, sometimes I do a lot of networking.
mhm.
I don't know if you've been involved in the NHS England now. They do monthly meetings where they show off. People come and talk about their virtual reality projects and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And then I'm like, oh, hold on, that I could maybe use that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. What motivates you? Where do you? I mean, if are you working in a little silo, or do you go out and speak to people and be like, that's a great idea. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. I think at the moment, I'm probably in a little bit more of a silo than I would like to. And I think part of, for me, what I want my next steps to be is kind of actually going out there and having that wider conversation with other sim techs. Um, I mean, I in terms of how I approach projects, I mean, I have always been really interested in things like nonlinear narratives and sort of. And I mean, I spent a lot of time when I did my master's degree in the arts, at looking at how different mediums can work together that you wouldn't necessarily think could work together. So I did the big piece, for example, about how do we visualize music, and how
Oh
how
wow.
do how do visuals evoke the same emotions within you than by listening to basically a musical piece. So, and I feel like so it feels like this is all really down my alley, because this is just something that I'm really interested in that kind of, and it is that kind of emotional aspect that we always like to draw out as well with our projects and with our students, is that kind of, let's not necessarily think about replicating one to one what, I don't know, this scenario is in the real world, but let's actually identify what emotional state would you be in if you would be exposed to this scenario in your clinical life, and how do I replicate that emotional state within you, and how do I get you into that emotional state to give you
Yeah.
an idea of what it feels
I
like.
mean, you're exactly right. I mean, that's why immersion is so important, isn't it? Because we
Yeah.
want all these real responses off of people. And although it can be kind of double edged, we sometimes see people, people cry sometimes within simulation,
Yeah.
we're trying to evoke these responses, and sometimes you forget what they've been through, or what
Mm.
they've just done last night.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is all kind of interlinked into what we're doing, but looking from a completely different perspective, it must be really pull on your creative juices, and make it all come together. You spoke about a lot about projects, and it feels like you're very passionate about what you do. But before we get onto some of your projects, what don't you like about what you do? Where's the negatives?
Deadlines.
Oh, so
But they
people
are
come
they
to you, they
are
go, "I need this by next week." How
I
are you
mean,
going to do it?
any deadline. Like I would always love an extra month or two, or an
Yeah,
extra week or two to finish something.
I mean,
But yeah, it's sometimes it is it's a fast moving industry, isn't there?
mm,
The nature of the beast is that a lot of the time you probably have less time on a project than you would really like to be, or that you should have, to develop something to the level that you probably wanted to develop, but it's just out of everyone's control, and you just have to, I
yeah.
suppose, soldier through and do the best of what you can with it.
Are you having any problems with things like money? In today's world, where especially within the NHS, we can't buy anything at the moment. People are just shutting down projects left, right, and centre. Is it affecting higher education, universities, that kind of stuff?
um I think we've been quite fortunate, and I think I mean, I always think limitations are actually a good thing to a certain degree, because again, it it makes you more creative, I think, a lot of
Yeah, I
the
was going to
time.
say exactly the same. It does. It makes you think a little bit more outside the box sometimes,
Yeah.
if they're not just giving you it on a silver tray, as it were.
Yeah, and I'd rather you talked about problem solving before, and it is such a big. I think of any kind of technician job, problem solving is such a big part, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes if things are too easy and you have, I mean, we all probably would always like a bigger budget, wouldn't we? And we could always
Mm.
easily spend probably at least three times of the budget that we're
Well,
given.
it all interlinks with you. You know, when you're saying you've got these time pressures, and I always remember it's like a little triangle, and on each post you've got time. You know, you've got cost, and you've got quality, and
Yeah,
to move towards two, you've got to kind of take away from the other. And
absolutely.
and if you want to increase time, it all kind of interlinks.
Yeah,
But the NHS seems to be more, we've got more time than
yeah,
than money. So use your time to think outside the box and solve the problem of
yeah,
how can you get this for
yeah,
how can you get this for less, or even better, how can you get this for free?
yeah.
Okay, you spoke about a lot about projects then. What you been working on?
Let me have a think. What did we recently developed? I think the biggest projects that we've done recently is we delivered quite a big project in beginning of March, which was a 15 months long project, which was a very luxurious time frame that we were given with that one.
Yeah, well, you're not
Um,
going to get much longer after 15 months, that's a fact.
no, 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 no. There was a lot of questions of did it really need to take that long? And I was very adamant of saying yes, it does need to take that long. And I think the end result speaks for itself, which is nice. But so we developed an immersive experience together in collaboration with a disabled musician from Newcastle called Clarence Adu, and he's was basically in a car accident in the mid 90s, and he's paralyzed from the neck downwards, but he had an amazing musical career afterwards. And he's been partnering with the university for a number of years, and he's been coming in to basically do talks with, especially our nursing students, to talk about lived experience and especially his experience in the healthcare system and how it impacted. And it was really about um, for the students to hear a patient story from the other side. And what we basically did is we took a story and we turned it into a 20-minute long, basically like an immersive film, where you basically sit in the immersive room and you experience his story unfolding around you, and you can relive certain aspects of his life. So for example, we recreated the car accident, and we put you in the backseat of the car as that kind of
Mm.
first person point of view, and you can have that, again, that emotional experience of living through it. So that was a very, very rewarding project, and a very big project, and
And so
it's
you
evaluated really
spoke about
well.
immersive rooms. What kind of immersive rooms were you working with?
So we have two immersive rooms, one on our Carlisle campus, one on our Lancaster campus, provided by Generate, who you had on the podcast. It was a couple of
Yeah.
months ago, I think. I mean, and the Generate guys are great. They're not paying me to say that, but they are
No, no, yeah. I
genuinely
think
they're genuinely great.
you'll hear no
Um,
arguments from anybody really.
yeah,
I think they've been very supportive, and got a good reputation
absolutely.
within the tech community. Well,
Yeah.
is the program interactive then? Because I know a lot of their rooms are interactive,
Um,
or is it just
so
passive?
yeah, so this one is probably the first one that we build that is a completely non-interactive scenario, because we wanted it to be very experiential. We wanted it to be kind of immersion more through the audiovisual side of it and more through kind of the story and the narrative of it rather than the interactivity. Um, what we did do quite a big interactive one. We recently did we built a kind of escape room style scenario for one of our nursing cohorts, which was also a very, very, very fun project. Which was basically, it was centered around you had the student. Some of the students were playing nurses, some of them were playing patients, and the nurses had to assess a certain number of patients to score points and escape the scenario. But then we gave them like a virtual drugs cupboard on the walls, but they could only use each medication once without
Ah,
knowing what other patients would come up.
yeah.
But every time they use it correctly, we basically score them a point. And then every time they completely assess a patient correctly, we give them like a Jeopardy style quiz board where they can
Mm.
choose a question on the wall for either 1 point, 2 point, or 3 points. And obviously they go up in difficulty to
I mean,
score
where do you
points.
start to think about ideas like that? I mean, where did that idea sprout from?
I mean that idea actually came. It was relatively developed actually when it came to us. So this came from one of our nursing academics who had run something similar like this, just in a ward environment. And she basically came to us and said, "I'd really like to translate this into the immersive room. I think this would be great into the immersive room." And then we kind of sat down and looked at what she'd done before, and then through kind of conversations and sort of brainstorming some ideas and sort of going back and forwards, we kind of landed on the final scenario. But I mean, we're already, because we've done it very successfully with a student group in end of April, but we're already talking about changes and alterations that we want to put in
Yeah, I
for
mean,
next year
so we
when
have
we run this
an
again.
escape room here. So we do it with maternity, and we called it a escape womb. I know.
Very nice.
And you find every time we do it, we put another change in, and we're just tightening it up, making it, a little bit more slicker. Because the first time
Yeah.
you do it, you never really know if it's going to work very well or not, do
No.
you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
I
found
mean,
that
we.
all of our games, they didn't really link together. It just felt like we
Yeah.
were going in and doing 5 separate games, and so
Yes.
trying to link everything together, and we started with a member of faculty in the room to help them. I think we're now at the point where we can pull the member of faculty out, and the room just
Mhm.
kind of, as you would hope an escape room is, you just throw them in there, and if they get out,
Yeah.
they get out. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I think we're just at that point now where
Yeah.
we believe in it a little bit. I think we're like five episodes in or something,
Yeah.
and it's now getting to a point where we trust it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we literally started changing things. We ran it over 3 days, and after day one, we started putting alterations in because we ran it with two groups on the first day. And like you say, the first time you run it, like you think you've worked it out on paper, but it's always
Mm.
different when you actually see the students playing it through. And we noticed that the patients were far too nice to the nurses, and they were feeding far too much information.
Yeah.
So we sat together after the end of the first day, and we thought, well, what can we do about that? So what we did on day two is we briefed them separately, and we took them in separate rooms. But we said to the patients, you only win if the nurses lose, and you actually
Ah,
have to do as much as you can to sabotage them without the nurses realizing that you sabotage them. And completely changed the dynamic in the room. And in a weird way, it probably made it more realistic because suddenly the patients weren't giving the correct
yeah.
answers. They were giving slightly wrong information. They were holding information back, like you probably would expect a real person to do. So that was a big lesson learned for us, I think.
Yeah, well, you like you say, you're really like gamifying, playing on those kind of rules, aren't you? Because
Yeah.
competition it's really healthy in those kind of situations.
Hmm.
I mean, one thing that we really took for granted was how how sneaky the participants can be. That sometimes they don't even care about the games; they're just trying to break the system. They're
Yeah.
looking in cupboards and they're looking under things, and like you've probably been in an escape room before, so you've got to hide all those kind of things away. Um,
That's
but
normally me. I'm normally the first one that tries to break anything when I get my hands on it in
Yeah.
terms of tech.
Coming back to the first one with the musician, and
Hmm.
watching it in the Generate room, do you watch anything on a headset rather than just because if it's just passive 360, wouldn't a headset be better than the room?
We debated that, yeah, with that, and I think so because we've developed things for VR headsets in the past, and what we found for us, well, VR works really well if you want that kind of singular point of view experience, and for that, VR we found is great. Like if I want to put my students into exactly the head of a patient of one specific person, then it's fantastic. But what we wanted to achieve with the Clarence Ado project was we at some points we did want it to be point of view, but at some points we also wanted to kind of remove them slightly and have that kind of third person point of view.
Mm.
And what was also important for us is we wanted it to be a communal experience. We didn't want it to be a singular experience. We wanted small student groups to be able to experience it together and share that emotional experience together, and then be able to exchange with each other in the debrief afterwards that shared
It's a
experience. So
really
that's why
interesting way
in
of
that
looking at
one,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we chose the immersive room for that particular scenario.
How did you do your? Sorry, I ask everybody this. How do you do your point of view? Because obviously it's quite tricky with I assume a 360 camera.
Yeah, we do when we do point of view in VR, we always use 360 cameras. What I normally try with any point of view is, because I mean it's you can't really have a you can't have someone appear in it. That's always the hard thing with 360
Yeah.
cameras, isn't it? So it needs to be that kind of almost like that disembodied experience. We always try to keep them stationary as well, and what we try to do is we also try and keep them mute. We just find it helps the students projecting themselves
Where do you put your
into
camera?
the
Are you
character.
talking about like on their heads or in front or on the side where you're putting the
Um,
camera?
so, I- it would be wherever the person in the scenario would be placed, but it would be kind of freestanding on basically like a monopod, an
Ah, I
invisible
see.
monopod, and then get it roundabout to the head height. So we've done something, for example, where we've placed the 360 camera in a wheelchair, and you move through the scenario because someone is pushing you in that wheelchair, but it's actually just a camera sitting on like a meter high monopod, invisible monopod in that wheelchair itself. So you're kind of on the same head height. And then we did another VR 360 project that was all about from the point of view of a 3-year-old in a family, kind of like a safeguarding scenario. So
Yeah,
we've
I've
had the
seen I've
camera
seen
really low down in a corner somewhere.
I've seen a few. I wonder if it's even your project that you're talking about. But yeah, it's like a kind of a domestic abuse kind of thing with you holding like the baby and I think in the kitchen, and then eventually you have to put the baby down in the cot, and you see the parents arguing.
Mm.
Yeah, I've seen that somewhere before. Like I say, it might
Yeah,
not be our project, but I know there's a few
similar,
out there.
similar. I don't think it's exactly ours, but it's very similar, yeah, to what we did.
Do you ever share any of your projects, or are you a just keep it to yourself kind of guy?
We've we I think we've demoed some of our stuff at some conferences in the past. So we've shown off some things there, and I mean we're always open, I think, for sharing resources.
Mm.
So if anyone wants to come and
Bit
look
of a
at our things, or
collaboration, yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely, we're always more than open to any kind of collaboration. Yeah,
what
absolutely.
what conferences do you go to?
Oh gosh, now you're asking me a
Did you
question.
get to go to ASPE last year?
I didn't get to go to ASPE last year. I'm hoping to be able to get to
Go
ASPE
to
this
this one.
year. Yeah. So
That's a little
that's I
bit
think the
further
next big one
away
for
than I
us.
would potentially like, because I'm northbound as well. So,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
good 6 hours or something on the train.
Yeah. That's
But
I really wanted to get last year because obviously it was up in Edinburgh, wasn't it? And
mm.
that's very much around the corner for us. But unfortunately, the schedules didn't
You
align.
getting to go to any tech conferences? I know there's a lot of those out this year.
I'm trying. I'm trying my best. I think like the main problem for me at the moment is like, and it's. I mean, I'm not complaining, but my academics are keeping me so busy with
Yeah.
projects. So it's sometimes it can be hard to kind of try and make the time and
Yeah,
get to
yeah, I
conferences.
think everyone's in the same boat, but at least if you can maybe get away to one, that's what I like to do. I like to do at least one a
Yeah,
year. But I know the techs are doing loads of conferences this year. I know there's
yeah,
SimTech Live going on, which is,
yeah.
and then you've got a southern one down south, and I think even the north's doing a northern SimTech event
Mm,
this year as well over in November. So there's plenty out there, isn't there? It's just
there
again,
is.
if the stars align and
Yeah,
and you're free that day and there's nothing else
absolutely.
on, it's just one of those things. So what are you going to be working on then? Have you got anything coming up that you can share?
Oh, um,
Or if you don't have
what can
anything
I
coming up,
share?
because
That's the.
you say, "No, I'm so busy, but yet I can't share anything because it's all
Yeah, I
confidential. I'm
mean,
waiting for the
we
military."
have. Let me see how I can phrase it into a nice teaser for you. I've got a very interesting project lined up that I'm hoping to get approved. That again is very much focusing on an emotional experience, specifically around ADHD and neurodivergency, which I'm quite excited about, and I'm hoping again that the stars
Is
align.
this going to
And
be maybe a point of view, so experiencing kind of what they
I think it's,
experience?
yeah, we're in the phase right now where we're just sort of brainstorming some ideas, and I think part of it, yeah, is probably a point of view. Part of it is kind of an interactive experience of sort of how can I sort of create certain feelings of frustration or helplessness or not being in control through that kind of gamification within you. So it's a very very interesting project. But I don't think I can say any more at this point. I'm afraid.
Wow, it's like you work somewhere, like you're working for the military and you can't share any of your information. But it's good because you know what you don't want to do is have people steal your ideas. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, if you don't share, you know, there's probably people out there that are listening, going, "Look, I've already done that." You know,
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
people would love to share. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I knew, the time always flies by, Finn, and we're already come to our half an hour as people will start switching off and falling asleep. And as I said, we'll be having a great time. Anything like you'd like to add before we sign off that you hadn't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
I think we've covered everything. I mean, just want to say thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's great to have these kind of platforms for Simtex to be able to exchange their experiences and yeah, build the network as well, I
Yeah.
suppose, and find more
How
about
can,
things.
if you have kind of teased someone a little bit too much and they want to get hold of you, how can they get hold of you, Finn?
Um, Anyone and everyone is always very more than welcome to email me. Email address is fin.drude, that's fin.drude at cumbria.ac.uk.
Cumbria. There you go.
Cumbria.
Cumbria. All right, Finn. Like I say, I'm hoping this is the first of many episodes where you can come on and maybe share a little bit more information on some of the projects that you've been working on, and maybe we can dig into some of your projects in a little bit more depth, because I know you're working on a load of great stuff, and it's great sharing it.
Absolutely.
All right, Finn. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that wraps up another episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Finn for joining us and giving us a deeper look into the world of digital simulation, from the innovations that are changing how we train to the practical realities of running tech-heavy scenarios. If today's episode sparked any interest or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who you think will find it useful. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in simulation.